Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Hammered Corner. In today's video, we have an in-depth look at the coinage minted under Charles II. On screen now you can see displayed timestamps, so you can easily refer to certain parts of the video in the future. But just before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on videos you'd like to see in the future. Now, the Scots were horrified when Charles I was executed in 1649, and while England became a republic, they proclaimed his son king and invited him to come to Scotland. Agreeing to the Presbyterian demands that he sign the National Covenant, Cromwell then marched north, defeated the Scots at the Battle of Dunbar on the 3rd of September 1650. He captured part of southern Scotland and seized and removed the nation's public records, although he did not manage to take the honours of Scotland. On the 1st of January 1651, the Scots crowned Charles II at Scone. This turned out to be the last such coronation at Scone. In July, the English army marched into Fife and then captured Perth, while the Scottish forces headed south into England, where they were defeated at the Battle of Worcester on the 3rd of September 1651. Charles II escaped and fled to France once more. The English, meanwhile, moved on to take Stirling and Dundee. By October 1st, Scottish resistance was effectively at an end, and the English government announced that England and Scotland were henceforth to be one Commonwealth. The Union took effect from 1652, although the Act of Union did not become law until 1657. Scotland was inadequately represented in Parliament, and a Council of State set up in 1655 included only 2 Scots. The resulting administrative and legal system was efficient, but financial ruin was widespread. Legislation was designed to suit the English but not the Scottish economy. King Charles II spent the next 9 years in exile. Until 1660, he was invited back to London and restored to his father's throne. He always recalled with distaste his time in Scotland. The Presbyterians had lectured him constantly about the morality and told him that kings were vassals of God like everyone else, and so he had no desire to go north again. The final phase of Charles II's reign was taken up mainly with attempts to settle religious dissension. The king had no legitimate children, and he was well aware that the Scots viewed with alarm the prospect of his Roman Catholic brother James succeeding him. Charles II died after a stroke in 1685, with the problem still being unresolved. Now, numismatically, Charles II's reign is incredibly important. We saw the end of the hammered coins, with milled press coins being the new normal way of creating currency. And unfortunately for us hammered coin lovers is where our journey ends. So firstly, we will look at all the coins that Charles produced that were part of the hammered series, starting with hammered gold. Firstly, we have the big gold unite, worth 20 shillings, with the king facing left and his initials either side of the shield on the reverse. We then have the double crown and crown. There were 2 issues of these gold coins produced, with the second issue implementing the coin's denomination in Roman numerals as displayed here, to the right of the bust. Now we will look at the silver hammered coins. Charles issued a half crown, worth 2 shillings and 6 pence, a shilling worth 12 pence, a 6 pence, a groat worth 4 pence, a 3 pence, a 2 pence, and a penny. These are uncommon coins, being the very last of the hammered series, as they were only struck for 2 years between 1660 and 1662, and are very collectible. At this point in numismatic history, all coins were struck at the Tower Mint in London, so all bore the same crown mint mark. Early in 1663, the ancient hand hammering process was finally suspended by the machinery of Blondel. John and Joseph Rottier, 2 brothers, engraved the dies with a safeguard against clipping. The larger coins were made with a milled edge, with a Latin inscription and a regal year. So firstly, we will look at the milled gold coins minted under Charles. Firstly, we have the 5 guinea piece, originally worth 100 shillings before the guinea was increased to 21 shillings. The king now faces right, with a much more simplified legend displaying Charles II by the grace of God. The reverse displayed the coat of arms, with 4 sceptres in quarters. We then have the similar design coin, the 2 guinea piece. We then have the guinea, and finally a half guinea. So now that the gold coinage was redesigned and renamed during the development from hammered to milled, the crown was no longer issued in gold, but was instead issued as a big silver piece. A huge piece of silver weighing 28 grams, and was the coin I displayed in the introduction. We have the extremely rare pattern petition crown minted in 1663 by Thomas Simon, struck in high relief, so rare and valuable that examples found in extremely fine condition are valued in the Sphinx book at over £500,000. We then have the half crown, with lots of different bust variations to collect and to learn about, as well as different edge inscriptions. A shilling, and again, with many bust varieties, dates and era examples that could keep you enticed for decades. A sixpence, and then we have the Maundy money, issued as sets consisting of a fourpence, a threepence, a tuppence, and a penny. But we don't stop there with Charles. He reintroduced the copper halfpenny and farthing, and a tin farthing too. I recommend the latest Sphinx book for a brief overview of these coins, and links to all coin related books for you to research further will be down in the description. Now we will look at the Scottish coinage minted during Charles II's reign. Less than 1 month after his father's death in 1649, Charles was proclaimed King of Scotland in Edinburgh. Nearly 10 years of exile passed before his return to London, and his coronation in April 1661 after the collapse of the Commonwealth, during which no coins were struck during this period. The mint was officially closed from 1650 to 1663. By this time, milled coins had surpassed the hammered and all Scottish coins were machine pressed. So as there were no gold coins issued in Scotland under Charles II, we will look at the silver and copper coins minted during his reign, opening the areas of his coinage you could research upon and collect. So just before we jump into it, please bear in mind that the Scottish currency is calculated differently. There were 12 Scottish pence to an English pence, so an English shilling would have been the equivalent to a 12 shilling piece in Scotland. There are two coinages we split these coins into. In the first coinage we have the 4 merks, worth 53 shillings and 4 pence, and Charles is now portrayed in a 3/4 bust facing right, with his dress robes fully on show. We now have the 2 merks, worth 26 shillings and 8 pence, the merk, worth 13 shillings and 4 pence, half merk, worth 6 shillings and 8 pence, and now we have the second coinage, where the engravers now face the king left with a similar bust to those on the English currency. We have the dollar, of which doesn't have the sceptres and quarters, but now bears the Scottish thistles, the half dollar, the quarter dollar, the 8th dollar, and the 16th dollar. We then have the copper coinage, that is consisted of a 2 pence with the king's initials on the obverse and the Scottish thistle on the reverse. We then have the bawbee, or the 6 Scots. And then finally the turner, a small copper coin with a sceptre and sword crossed under crown on the obverse and a thistle on the reverse. So there are an array of Scottish coins for you to research and collect. If collecting Scottish coinage is an area that interests you, then the Scottish and Irish Sphinx book being a great research tool for you to learn about for beginners. These issues include die axis changes, errors, legend errors, and even errors in the shields. I don't own any Scottish Charles II coins, but I hope to add a first issue merc sometime in the near future. This is because I've recently moved to Scotland from Bristol, so I'm learning every day about the differences in the coinages. So finally, let us look into the Irish coinage minted during this period. In 1660, Charles II granted a patent to Sir Thomas Armstrong for a term of 21 years for coining farthings, at the same time prohibited the use of all other tokens. The Irish authorities, however, were opposed to the circulation of these farthings in Ireland, though they were considerably heavier than the royal farthings of the previous reign, and as a result, comparatively fewer were minted. So unfortunately for those silver and gold lovers, there were none minted in Ireland in this reign. So firstly, we have Armstrong's coinage of 1660 to 1661, displaying a crown and 2 sceptres, and a crowned Irish harp. We then have St. Patrick's coinage, with King David playing harp with crown above, with St. Patrick holding cross and crozier preaching to multitude with the arms of Dublin. And this was minted in a small and large size. They then issued regal coinage between 1680 and 1684, minting a very nice copper halfpenny with the king's bust facing right and a crowned Irish harp on the reverse. So not a huge variety of Irish coinage to research upon, although there were many trader tokens issued during this time, if that's of interest to you, with many of the tokens and coins shown being extremely expensive and scarce. So there we have it, a very brief insight into the coinage of Charles II. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and most importantly, learned something new. Be sure to let me know down below of the coins of Charles II that you have in your collections. Thank you all for your continued support, and as always, keep collecting.